RTF Sports Talk. RTF Sports Talk. RTF Sports Talk. RTF Sports Talk.
And now you've got yourself something funky.
RTF Sports Talk. RTF Sports Talk. RTF Sports Talk. RTF Sports Talk. RTF Sports Talk.
Alrighty, guys, welcome to RTF Sports Talk Live. I'm the host of the show, Michael Buckheister. I'm joined today with Matthew Lyle. Matthew, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I've been pretty good, man. Just enjoying this beautiful weather, getting ready to do a great show.
All right, and as always, got Billy Hatton with us as well. Billy, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing all right. Doing some packing. Finna get on this road to head to old sunny Florida. Ready to roll, man.
All righty. And speaking of the road to the championship, I don't know how that segue worked out, but we have LSU versus Mississippi State. We're going to start today's show off. Mississippi State 4-2 is traveling to LSU 6-1. LSU has had quite the rough last 3 weeks. They played Ole Miss at Florida, and they beat Georgia last week as well. Meanwhile, Mississippi State has kind of had the last 2 weeks off to rest up and heal with their last game coming versus Auburn, when a 23-9 win. So, Matthew, question arises to you. Who do you have in this game and why?
You know, the Kentucky fan in me, I want Mississippi State to win this because we've got the head-to-head to Mississippi State. It just really strengthens our wins. But realistically, I don't think that Mississippi State's going to be able to get the win, especially with it being in Death Valley. Mississippi State is a, for lack of a better term, a poor man's version of what Georgia was, a pretty strong run game, a decent quarterback back there. And if you force him to pass, I don't know how good I believe his name is Fitzgerald or Fitzpatrick, one of the two.
Fitzgerald.
I'm forgetting his name. Fitzgerald. I don't know how good he's going to be if you force him to sit in that pocket and make a play. Kentucky, which I like Kentucky's defense. Numbers wise, it ranks top 5 in the country. But I think what Kentucky does, I think LSU does better. Kentucky's able to stop the run and rush the passer, and I think LSU can do that even better. Kentucky held their starting running back to, I want to say, 26 total yards. I think LSU can do the same. Fitzgerald had 4 yards rushing, if I'm not mistaken, in total after all the sacks. I think LSU can do the same. And with it being, I was at that game when Kentucky played Mississippi State. That was a great environment, one of the best environments I've been in. Death Valley is going to be better. I don't think that they're going to be able to do what Mississippi State's going to be able to do what they want to do. And, LSU's always had a solid defense, a legitimate run game, quick, tall receivers. They've just lacked a quarterback, and I think Joe Burrow is the quarterback that LSU's needed. Is he going to be the best in the country? Probably not, but, he's good enough to get them over the edge in a lot of these games. And I think with that defense, his playing style, I think LSU takes care of business.
I definitely agree right there, Matthew. I had that written down in my notes that Burrow, he hasn't really won them a lot of games, but he also haven't really lost them a game either. He's been playing pretty solid. I agree. He's the quarterback that LSU need. I got LSU win this game as well. What's interesting to see is Mississippi State is only giving up 12.5 points per game. I think that number increases on Saturday. I like Brissett. The problem is with Mississippi State is when you have your quarterback, this doesn't really work out unless you're Michael Vick or Lamar Jackson in college. When your quarterback is your leading rusher and your leading passer, that's normally a recipe for disaster. And I don't think Mississippi State is there yet. They're going to play tough. It's an SEC game, so you know that they're going to bring it. I just don't know if they have enough. Fitzgerald, I think he only got like 4 touchdowns. The 3 interceptions on the year. That's just not going to get it done with that LSU front. trying to pound the ball. You're going to need to be able to put the ball in the air. I just don't think they have enough. I think LSU wins this game, and it's at Death Valley at nighttime, a night game down there. Those fans are going to be crazy. LSU win this at least by 10, I think.
So let me ask
Billy, you brought up a good point there. You brought up a good point, Billy. They're averaging 12 points a game, and it's funny you say that. And look, as a fan, I know a lot about Kentucky, but I'm still admitting that they have the blueprint, but they're not the master yet. LSU, Bama, those type of schools are the master of this SEC football. And the reason that Mississippi State's even allowing 12 points a game, there's only been one team on their schedule that has scored more than 10 points. That was Kentucky. 3 touchdowns came late because what they could do, Kentucky's able to play SEC football, push the line down the field, and run the ball. LSU, they master that, push them down the field. So even if the game's close, I don't see, even if Mississippi State's able to find a busted coverage and get in the end zone once, maybe even twice, I don't see them stopping that LSU style of run.
And neither do I.
4 quarters.
Neither do I.
Like you said, I think this is going to be the second team to score over 10, and I think it's going to be the second team to score over 20, maybe even 30 if Burrow starts hot. If he's able to get it through the air, and now you got to unload that box, and then that run game gets going, I don't think Mississippi State can compete with that. The defense gets their head down, and you lose, maybe you lose 30-9.
So
I definitely agree. To your point, Bro State got 9 touchdowns on the year. He's absolutely killing it.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys have no issue about so the LSU has played Ole Miss, Florida, and Georgia the last 3 weeks. They are probably a tired and probably hurting bunch with Mississippi State having that week off. Do you you don't have any doubt in their mind that they'll come out?
No, not at all, because look at the game last week. If it had been a triple overtime win versus Georgia, I think the emotions would be high, the fatigue would be high, and you could catch them slipping. They beat Georgia by 20 points.
Yeah, they cruised through that game.
That game was pretty well in hand the entire time. The fatigue was not necessary there. The game in the swamp, I'll give you, but they kind of gave that away with a pick six late and some bad clock management. And Ole Miss isn't that good. Ole Miss just has a fiery offense. If you can stop that, you don't have to worry about doing. Me and Billy's running for 50 yards each at least on Ole Miss's defense. So I don't think that one was much fatigue. I think going to the swamp was what going to the swamp is. And the Georgia game, even though Georgia's, I think, the best team that they faced, really wasn't in question. So the fatigue part doesn't get me on this. Not in this situation.
No, me neither. Plus LSU is on a bye week next week. So what they're trying to do is get to they're not trying to beat Georgia. They're not trying to go into a bye week having to soak a loss. I think I don't see any fatigue in this one. I think they roll pretty easy in this game.
Now, if you would remove that bye week, if that bye week wasn't there, and you got Bama sitting right there next weekend, I would say concerned. But I'm not as concerned on that.
That's a great point. All right, guys. So
I agree with that.
So let's go ahead and move on to the next game on the schedule here. Michigan versus Michigan State. Michigan is 6-1 coming into the game with the shellacking of Wisconsin, and Michigan State comes in at 4-2 with a fairly good game last week. I don't have the score right there in front of me, but they played Central Michigan. So Matthew, who do you got on this one?
Look, when I think Michigan, when I think Harbaugh, I think decent team, I think good team, but I think there's 2 negatives that are guaranteed with Harbaugh. And I use the word guaranteed lightly. A shocking loss, a disappointing loss, and then an embarrassing or a loss to Ohio State. The Ohio State game off the rails a little bit. They've already got there, which doesn't look as bad now seeing Notre Dame being undefeated. But they've already got their shocking loss. They've already got the one that quieted the big house. It got the state of Michigan bummed. They lost that already. And then last week was an eye-opener for any team that didn't lose. Kentucky is the last week on bye. As a Kentucky fan, I was like, thank goodness we didn't play because so many teams lost. I think that next week, I call, Billy referred to last Saturday as upset Saturday. I call this Saturday sober Saturday. You know what happened last week. You know Michigan State is capable of pulling off a win. They beat Penn State. You know any team is capable of a loss that doesn't wear crimson and is located in Alabama. Any team outside of that is subject to any loss at any time. And I think this Saturday isn't going to lend itself to very many upsets because if you were lucky enough to get a win last week, you think you're lucky stars, and you're going to remember that this week. Michigan's already been caught off guard by Notre Dame earlier. This team, Michigan State, isn't Ohio State, so I got to go with Michigan on this one.
I'm right there with you. Also, I think Michigan wins this game as well. To your point, normally in college football, we only have that one Saturday where teams it just seems like they just drunk the wrong juice or they woke up on the wrong side or something. And that was last week. I agree. I don't think that happens this week. Michigan State has been up and down. They lose to Northwestern, but then they come back and beat Penn State. Who is this team? But I know who Michigan is right now, and they're a totally different team from where they were when they played Notre Dame. Shea Patterson, in that first game against Notre Dame, he looked lost in this Jim Harbaugh system. He didn't. It seemed like he couldn't get his footing in there. The offensive line was still playing pretty bad. I think Shea Patterson is right on the right track right now. He's completing about 68% of his passes, 10 touchdowns, 3 interceptions on the year. So that means he's not making many mistakes. He's not losing you the game. Also, this offensive line, I was watching college football live like a couple days ago, and I seen a stat. Michigan last year was giving up 3 sacks per game. This year, it's down to 1.5. So they fixed their quarterback issue, and they fixed their offensive line issue. I think they roll in this game. I think they beat Michigan State and I think they roll up until they meet Ohio State. I think they get the win.
All right, guys, so let's go ahead and move
Nothing
on.
to add here.
So, let's go ahead and move on to the Oregon-Washington State game. Oregon comes in at 5-1. Washington State also comes in at 5-1. Matthew, who do you got on this one?
I'm going to continue this trend of comparing my college football team with the rest of college football. As a Kentucky fan, I've been here. We were here last year, the year before. You're 5-1. You're getting some hoopla. You're getting some pat on the back. And a lower-ranked team that's better than you comes into your house and you lose. Washington State, I like them. I like Mike Leach as a coach, as his offense. He's the one that created this high-spread offense that's all over college football that I love. College Game Day is in, ironically, even though they have the Washington State flag that's been at 5,000 straight College Game Day shows, this is the first time College Game Day's ever been in Washington State. This is going to be a big time for them, but I think it's going to be a somber time for them. I think Oregon's going to come in. Oregon's that kind of team that knows who they are, and they're electrifying, and they're really good. I think they're just going to catch up. They're going to catch them off guard. Washington State really belongs in the Big 12, and one of those teams that could probably beat anybody, could probably lose to anybody, depending on how those 50 or 60 passes that you throw go. I think this is when they fall. I think they're going to come in. They're going to come in excited. They might even jump out to a big lead or an early lead, but I think Oregon, being a better team, gets them late. I don't even think it'll be really close to a final score. I would say somewhere along the lines of 45-30.
Who do you have on this game, Matthew? I'm sorry, I missed that. Matthew.
What?
Who do you have on that game again? Oregon?
Yeah, Oregon.
Okay, sorry.
45-30.
Gotcha.
I got Oregon as well. I'm right there with you. Washington State is one of those teams every year that's just hanging around. Ever since Mike Leach, made the jump and he moved to he went to Washington State, he's had this team in the conversation just about every single year. And this team, they're 5-1. They're not creeping up on anybody. They've been here. But I think what's going to be the difference in this game is Justin Herbert. I've been saying this for a few weeks now. I like this guy. I really didn't watch much of Oregon games before this year. Obviously, I would watch them when they're on or in prime time. This year, I've been really watching Oregon. I like Justin Herbert. 6'6", 220-some pounds. Can make every throw on the field. Probably going to be the number one pick, depending on need. It'll be, to me, probably between him and Bosa. You know, we splitting hairs. You know, it just all depends on who picking first in the NFL draft next year. I think Justin Herbert is the best quarterback in the NCAA. I think he's going to be number one pick in the draft next year. I think that's going to be the difference in this Oregon-Washington State game. Oregon on the road, too. It's going to be a tough place to play. You know that Washington State fans are going to be pumped. You know the players are going to be pumped. But in the end, I think Oregon wins. I think they win by a touchdown.
All right, and just to add some notes to this game, the Washington State quarterback Gardner Minshew has he's thrown for 400 yards in the last four of the last 5 games, hitting 70% of his passes while throwing 19 touchdowns for just 4 interceptions. And they've also had 2 weeks off to prepare for this Oregon team as well. So just throwing some notes out there.
You're giving me impressive numbers, but you're giving me Mike Leach numbers. There was a time last year, and just like you see in Mike Leach's disciples, last year Washington State played 3 different quarterbacks over the span of the season, multiple games. Each quarterback, if I'm not mistaken, had at least one 400-yard game. Texas Tech did the same exact thing earlier in the season. They had their starter come in, threw back-to-back 400-yard games. He got hurt. The backup came in, had back-to-back 400-yard games. He got hurt. The third-string guy came in and threw for almost 500 yards. So it's impressive, Mike, but it's that offense it's that system. You want to know system quarterback? Washington State, Texas Tech, those are system quarterbacks that allow for those numbers to go well. And if you get lucky, you get you a Patrick Mahomes, who that's the type of player he is, and then you really have something special. But I don't see that being right here, right yet. I mean, Ryan Leaf out through Peyton Manning.
That's a story for a different day there. So let's go ahead and move on to the NBA. The association last night, the Houston Rockets played New Orleans Pelicans, with the Pelicans coming out on top. I believe it was like 131-19, if I remember the score correctly. But the story that has come out of this game is Carmelo Anthony coming off the bench. He got 27 minutes last night, shot a 3 for 10, 2 for 4 from the foul line with a block and 4 rebounds. Do you think after this game that the Rockets are even further back from the Golden State Warriors with the addition of Carmelo Anthony? Matthew, I'll start with you on this one again.
I'll be an echo. I mean, I said this when I think we had this discussion like 3 straight shows over the summer. I mean, yes, they're as far from the Warriors as they were when they signed him, because I knew this is what it was going to be. Whether he's a starter or whether he's a bench player, he's going to be just a guy who shoots a lot, and he'll hit them sometimes, and sometimes he won't. He's not going to give you much defense. He's not going to give you a lot of playmaking abilities. And I think he's not bought into the bench role, and it's going to make him even worse. I said the only way this works is if he's willing to be a better version of what Nick Young, a.k.a. Swaggy P, was last year for the Warriors, where you come in, whether it be for 3 minutes or whether it be for 12 minutes, and you just hope to get 15 points. It doesn't appear as if he's bought into that. The parts of the game that I watched last night, he didn't look on. Now, it is one game, and I will give no matter, I have a feeling Billy's going to argue the opposite, and I'll give him that it's only one game. But it wasn't, one game isn't going to change my mind either. So what I was sitting on this in the summer, this is going to be a mess. They might come to a point down in the season, kind of like the Thunder did in the playoffs last year, where they're like, just go sit down there in the bottom of the bench somewhere, and then they'll let James Harden and Chris Paul get some resemblance of a team going. But as long as they're trying this experiment where they try to treat him like Lou Williams, come off the bench, give me electric, and then go sit down and be happy, it's going to be ugly, and it's going to just slip even further from where the Warriors are.
I didn't know where I was going to go with this one. I had a lot of stuff written down. But I'm gonna start at your Nick Young and Lou Williams point. They don't even really deserve to be in the same conversation as a Carmelo Anthony. These guys have always been bench guys, you know, and I agree to your point that he hasn't really fully bought into the coming off the bench thing. But who would? You know, this guy, he goes to Syracuse, he wins a national championship. He goes to Denver, take them to a Western Conference championship. He then decides, I want more money instead of winning, and he goes to New York. And I think when he went to New York, that's when his career began to trickle down. Now, my thing is, everybody talks about Melo today. I watched so many shows this morning. You know, everybody talks about Melo. But James Harden is getting paid $228 million. Chris Paul is getting paid $160 million. Clint Capella is getting paid $90 million. So we talking about Melo here. James Harden shot 6 of 15 last night. 3 from 8 from 3. All we know of James Harden is choke, choke, choke. His last 2 games in the Western Conference Final without Chris Paul, because Chris Paul carried that team last year. His last 2 games in the Western Conference Finals, he threw up a dud. He comes out in the regular season. He's the MVP of this team. He's the reigning MVP of the NBA. He shoots 6 of 15. Here we are talking about Carmelo Anthony. Chris Paul shot 3 of 7 last night from 3. And we're talking about Melo. Anthony Davis had 32 points and 16 rebounds. We paying Clint Capella $90 million to let guys score 32 points and grab 16 boards? That's what you're supposed to be doing. Mirotic had 30 points. Julius Randle had 25. How about stop somebody? I think the Rockets are fine offensively. They scored 100-plus points last night. When you score 100-plus points, you're supposed to win that game. How about play some defense? We already know Melo's not going to play defense. He hadn't played defense since college. You know, he's never played defense. We know what Melo is. He's a high volume shooter. Now, and I think that's the problem with this team. You know, he went to OKC last year. He playing with a ball dominant guy in Russell Westbrook, with a ball dominant guy and Paul George, and he getting the ball at the end of the shot clocks. To me, Melo is kind of similar to Steph Curry in the fact that they are both rhythm shooters. We've seen it time and time again with Steph. He comes out, he miss a few. He have games like he did in the Western Conference Final last year and in the NBA Finals where he shoot 1 of 11, 1 of 10, have 11 points. And that's your unanimous MVP. Melo is coming off the bench. He's not getting in rhythm with his shots. He only took 10 shots last night. That has never been Melo. He 2 years in a row now, he is starting off the season taking less and less shots than he's ever did in his career. For a volume shooter like Melo, he has to get in a rhythm. And when he's coming off the bench and, you know, he's not really getting the shots that he want to get, this is what you're going to see. I just don't really understand why we're not talking about the guys that's making the millions of dollars. Carmelo Anthony's only making $2.4 million this year. What about your MVP? What about the guy you just signed to that $160 million deal? What about the guy you just signed to a $90 million deal to do something that none of them are doing right now? So, I mean, yeah, Melo played bad, and I wasn't going to mention the one game, but it is just one game. What if he comes out next game and scores 30? Are we going to sit here and have the same conversation? I doubt we will. So, yeah, I get it. Melo played bad. He's going to be the punching bag. We always talk about, you know, guys playing with LeBron James, how their numbers are going to go down. Well, it's the same with Chris Paul and James Harden. Both of these guys dominate the basketball. This is what we're probably going to see out of Melo this year. Is that his fault? I mean, go ahead.
And you're right. Like, I'm not going to argue with you on that because you're absolutely right. But that was the point I made back in the summer is that everything you said is truth and factual. That's like me saying gasoline is wet and fire is hot. But by God, if you combine them, we got some problems. And that was my thing is you're taking a guy who needs 20-plus shots to get going. You're putting him on a team that really can't afford 20-plus shots, and you're expecting that to work. And that was where my problem. And to your further point, if he comes out and puts up 30 tonight, I'm not changing my opinion because it's an 82-game season. I think this is going to be – you're absolutely right, dude. James Harden, struggle monster. ironically, he's the only person in the playoffs that tend to choke more than Chris Paul. And somehow Chris Paul is the guy that somehow drug him in a one-year attempt. I said that earlier in the show, earlier in the summer when we was talking. Last year was an outlier. It was Chris Paul's last Hail Mary attempt at some resemblance of a decent postseason. It didn't really work out for him. I don't think it's going to work out for him moving forward. The reason that the media and we're having this discussion is because we saw this monstrosity at defense last year. We saw this throw up as many shots as possible and hope they fall in last year. And we're hoping that didn't change. And we're looking at what did change, and the obvious one is Carmelo, and we want to blame him when really I think the bigger point is look at the guys they lost.
Daryl Morey, that's who should be to blame. Daryl Morey letting Trevor Ariza and Luka Matamute go. That's what we should be talking about.
Two guys. Those are glue guys. Melo is not. Oh, let's build. Let me paint you a picture, Billy. I'm building a house, and I got some nice sturdy bricks. I got a nice MVP candidate in James Harden. I got a sturdy veteran in Chris Paul, and I got a nice valuable sixth man in Eric Gordon. And I'm going to put those together with some nice cement, or I'm going to with the putty, whatever you put in between bricks, cement, whatever, and Ariza and Ibaka, not Ibaka. Who's the big guy that I'm thinking of? I'm drawing a blank.
Capella and Matamute and Tucker and these guys.
Yeah, you got those guys are. Well, now I'm going to build a nice house. Well, now you just came and took all my glue away, and you gave me more bricks that just happen to be less sturdy bricks. Like Melo is a brick. He's just an older, cracked brick. And he's not going to help me build my house. If anything, he's just not going to have a place in my house. I'm just going to sit him in the front yard and hope the lawnmower don't hit him. Like,
I agree with that. I definitely agree with that statement. I definitely agree with that.
He just doesn't have a place with me right now. Now, if I go to an old broken-down shack, i.e. Brooklyn, he could have a place because Brooklyn could use a brick or two. But he didn't. He went to a place, and even as a Warriors fan, if he had come to Golden State, I would have been screaming, no, because he's not willing to make the sacrifices. There's a reason that guys like, and I'm not comparing their abilities, but there's a reason like guys like Andre Iguodala, David West, even Vince Carter to a point, have been able to get on somewhat successful teams, and in those other two cases, win championships. Because when coaches looked at them and said, you're not a starter anymore, they said, okay. They looked at Allen Iverson and said, I need you off the bench. He said nope, and he left. Like Allen Iverson could have got a ring if he would have said, okay, I'll go to Miami and come off the bench with LeBron James, or I'll go to San Antonio and come off the bench or whatever. But he said, no, I'm not a bench player. That's fine, but he didn't drag any additional teams down. Melo has to make that decision here. And I don't think this is the right decision on the right team.
But I do think Melo is a starter in this league. I mean, he's only a career 24-point-per-game guy. He averaged almost 17 points last year, 16.8. And he shot less shots than he ever shot. So that's my point. You know, when you're not getting what you used to get, yeah, you may not look like a who you used to be. Let's not forget, this guy also shot a career high last year for 3-pointers made. He still can shoot the basketball. But when you're getting it in limited time at the end of the shot clock, after you done dribble the ball out and you have nothing else to do but to pass the ball out to somebody else. Now, granted, last night he got some good looks. You know, pick and roll with Chris Paul. I can remember at least 3 times where he had decent looks. He just missed it. But when you're not getting the shot that you used to get, you're not going to look the same way. I think people are getting on Melo, and it's not a Melo problem. You know, it's the situations that he's going to. You know, he chose to go to Houston, so you know, I'm not going to sit here and cry a river for him. He chose this, you know. But I just think people are getting on Melo, and he don't deserve it. You know, Melo could be a starter in this league. He could get up to 20-some points a game again, which is his career average. I just think he can't do it being the third star on the team.
Look, the term starter is like the term rich. It's subjective. If you told me that you had $1 million in the bank, Billy, to me, you are rich, you are well off, you are doing great. You go tell Bill Gates you got $1 million in the bank, he's going to look at you like you're some hobo. So yes, in Brooklyn, in Phoenix, in Orlando, maybe even Chicago, Melo's a starter. But if he wants to play on actual legitimate championship contender teams, he is not.
So you're telling me he's not better than? So you're telling me he's not better than PJ Tucker?
But okay, so in a game of one-on-one, yes. But for a team to win, he's not a starter. He doesn't fit what the. If I look at each individual team that I would consider contenders, and I say he's not going to help them start. Okay, like for example, in Golden State, even with Boogie out, if they move Draymond to the 5, Durant to the 4, and Steph and Clay at the 2, I still wouldn't want Carmelo at the 3. I would rather have Iguodala in there because he fits that better. In Boston, I'm sure. Well,
yeah, but fits and whether somebody should start, that's two different conversations. You're talking about fit. Where did he fit?
Yes.
I say he's a starter. He's a starter. He's better than Iguodala. He's better than Iguodala. Iguodala just works well for that team. Just like Draymond Green works well for that team. Draymond Green couldn't go to any other team in the league and be all-star like he is with the Golden State Warriors, where he's getting almost 10 assists a game because he's passing it out to two of the greatest shooters in league history, plus Kevin Durant. So, yeah, fit-wise, no, he wouldn't fit with a lot of teams. But I say he's a starter. Starter means you're better than the guy that's in front of you. That's what that means.
No, those days are over, dude. That's the thing. That's 1990s thinking. Like, that's like saying a motor is better than tires. But if my car needs tires, I don't need another motor. That's the thing.
You're talking need now. You're talking need and fit. Exactly. I say he's a starter. Starter means, am I better than you? Am I better than you?
No. There's a reason that guys, like, look at football, for example. Wes Welker started over better receivers, but he was a better fit. Better players don't start anymore in sports. That's just a fact. Unless you're on just a crap team.
That's two different. That's two different arguments, though. That's two different topics. It is. Because I say he's a starter. So is he better than PJ Tucker? It hasn't. The term hasn't changed. It's the same. Terms don't change. It don't change.
Not Houston.
So he's not better than James Ennis.
Not in Houston.
No. Is he better than James Ennis?
Well, I don't know who that is. So I don't
my
know.
point. That's exactly my point.
The dude in Utah?
No, the guy that started for the Houston Rockets last night at small forward, James Ennis III, along with PJ Tucker and Clint Capella and Chris Paul and James Harden. That's my point. You're talking fit. I'm talking about whether or not he could start on any team.
He can't. No, he is not a starter in Houston. If he ever starts a game in Houston, that's a wrap for that team. That is a wrap for that team. That team will miss the playoffs if he starts for Houston. I will bet any amount of money on that. If he starts all 82 games, that team will miss the playoffs. That team will probably not be 500. If you're talking about the same Ennis guy that's from the white guy from Utah that can shoot three.
No.
Yes.
No, not him. That's not what I'm talking about. This guy's black. He's James Ennis. He's not better than that. That's my point. You're talking about whether or not he should or shouldn't. That's a total different conversation. I'm saying, is he better? Carmelo Anthony could go to just about any team in this league, and he is better than half the small forwards that's on these teams. That's fact.
Okay.
Now, whether he fits with these teams or not, whether this guy's a better fit in the starting lineup or this guy's a better fit in the starting lineup, that's totally different. You're talking fits. I'm talking, is he better? Is he better?
You're using subjective terms again. The term better. Okay, so better as a player or better for my team?
It doesn't matter. Is he better? That's my point.
No,
the question you just asked is my exact point. What I'm saying. You're talking fit, whether or not he fit with my team or not. I don't care whether he fit. Of course, he probably shouldn't start, but I'm telling you, he is a starter. You're talking fit. I'm not talking fit.
Not in Houston. There is in Houston, he is the worst player on that team. I will say that. The way he plays and the way Dan and Tony wants that team to play, he is the worst player on that roster. I will never change that. Not in any Dan Tony-led team. That don't have to be Houston. Let the man go to the Manitowoc
If anything, he's perfect for any D'Antonio team.
No.
Run and gun and shoot shots and don't play any defense.
No, there's a
That's perfect for what D'Antoni do.
No, that is. I said this back in the summer. Melo has no business being on this team, and I will stick to that. If every game he starts,
I agree. I agree. He don't fit with this team. I'm not arguing that point. Because of his style of play does not fit with the guys that's on their team. But you're saying he's not a starter. You tell him what you say?
Why would you start him then? Because
he can have the ability to give you 20-some points a game, and he's better than James Ennis. That's why. You start the better player. You're saying fit. Of course not. Of course, fit-wise, with playing with two other ball-dominant guys and a team that already don't have any defense, of course he doesn't fit with this team. You're talking fit. I'm not talking fit. I'm not talking fit.
Now. I'm baffled right now because why would I personally get something better if it doesn't benefit me? That makes no sense. Oh, start him. He's not a good for your team, but he's put him in there. That's the stupidest thing ever. It's like if I got a sickness, this medicine's better, but it's not going to cure your sickness. That medicine is not better for me. That makes no sense.
And again, you're talking fit. You're talking about talking about right situation. That's not what starter means. That's not the term starter means. I'm better than you. Is this guy a starter?
No.
I'm better than you. So I tell you what. You play sports, right, Matthew?
Yes.
What position did you play in when you played?
Wide receiver.
So there's a receiver in the league. Or whatever you playing. He's not better than you, but the coach said, you know what, Matthew, I know you better than him. I know this, but we're going to start this guy. What are you going to say?
Once again, if it's Georgia Tech, I get it. He's better than me if we run a Georgia Tech offense. If he's 6'4" and can block and you run the wing T, yes, he is better than me for that. If we run Texas Tech, spread it around, then now I got a debate. But things are different. Like, Lamborghini's a better car, but if I got a family of 8, I don't need it. It's not for me. It's not the best car for me.
And that's fit. That's fit.
And starters are based off fit. And starters are based off fit. Example. You just can't. No, you just can't put my best 5 players out here. That's absurd. That's why the team was horrible.
No, the team is horrible because they got no defense. Because the GM, Daryl Morey, thought that, oh, man, let's just let the 2 guys that's going to play the defense on the team, let's let them walk. It ain't Carmelo's fault that they don't play any defense on that team. That's not his fault. It's not his fault James Harden went 6 of 15. That's not his fault. It's not his fault that Chris Paul went 3 for 8 from 3. It's not his fault Anthony Davis had 32 and 16, and Mirotic had another 30 and 10, and Julius Randle had 25 and 9. That's not his fault. And Etuan Moore had another 21 points. That's not Carmelo's fault.
No, but he's still a starter. I mean, that don't change nothing.
So why we ain't talking about James Harden right now? Why we ain't talking about Chris Paul? Why we ain't talking about Clint Capella, the guy that's making almost $100 million a year? We're talking about a guy that makes $2.4 million a year.
Well, then let's have that discussion. Let's put it on. See, now you're talking about narratives in media. Now you're talking about completely different things that aren't sports related.
How? I'm talking about the game. I just gave you stats of the people that played in the game yesterday.
But hear me out.
How was that media?
I'm trying to explain to you how media works. Because clearly you have a question about it. You asked a question about it. The media, just like life in general, not to steal a line from the Joker in Dark Knight, right? Or Dark Knight.
That's a good movie, by the way.
It is a great movie. If something is expected to happen and it happens, even no matter how horrible it is, like I think he brings up in the movie, and I don't want to get on a touchy subject, but he brings it up in the movie. If a whole bunch of soldiers die, that's okay because that's expected. That's not okay, but in the media's eyes, we're not talking about that. But if 2 people that are government officials or celebrities or famous dies, that's everywhere. We expect James Harden to go 5 for 20 and not play a lick of defense because that happened last year. That happened the year before. They choked everywhere. That happened. That's boring. We're not going to talk about that. We're talking about the new, the outlier, the thing that that wasn't there. That's how this works. That's why the reason you turn it on.
Oh, I definitely agree. I definitely agree with that. But it's not Melo's fault. From your whole argument, from what I got from your argument, it's Carmelo's fault why they're losing. It's Carmelo's fault why they won't get to where they think that, which I didn't think they were going to be in the same spot they were this year as they were last year. Me and you both said that in the all season I think that was just a one-time thing. But how is this Carmelo's fault? That's my question. Okay. How is this Carmelo's fault?
Okay, so let me answer that question then. It's not going to be 100% Carmelo's fault. I said it's going to be Carmelo's fault, and even then I wouldn't blame him because Melo is who he is. Melo is what he is. You can't change that. You can't expect him to change that. You got to coach that out of him. But I said it's Melo's fault if they start him. It's the same way that if let's say I got X amount of dollars a month coming in, and I love to go out and eat, and I love to smoke cigarettes. I'm going to start going broke if I pick up a third bad habit. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I'm a gambler and an addictive smoker, I'm going to struggle financially anyway. But if I pick up a third bad habit, I am now done. My money cannot withstand this third bad habit. That's essentially what's happening if you put Carmelo in the starting lineup of Houston Rockets. You have two vices. You have two guys who don't play a lick of defense and love to try to score or at least lead the scores in as many ways possible. You can't add a third to that. That is the only way it's Melo's fault. Now, if you want to try to get rid of somebody and then make it more Melo-centric, all right, we'll see how that experiment goes. But with what you got now, you are doomed if you add to that. Now, like my little metaphor, if I want to pick up drinking and I want to quit smoking, I might be able to juggle that. Or if I want to start smoking and drinking but give up gambling, I might be able to juggle that. But for me to continue to do all three is setting myself up to failure. Now, if I
agree with that, but we all agree that he probably don't deserve to, not deserve, but he doesn't belong on that team with those guys. I get that. You know, okay. me and you agree. Me and you agree on that point. But what I'm saying,
that's why it's his fault.
It's not though. It's not. It's those guys' fault. They wanted him. Antonio said that he could make it work. That he know him and Melo's time in New York probably didn't go as well, but he could make it work. That's what D'Antoni said. He said so that. So Melo's not grown enough to make his own decision? Chris Paul wanted that. He wanted to go to a championship caliber team. Why would he want to go somewhere like Jimmy Butler to want to go to the Brooklyn Nets, but say he want to win? Now, that's the total opposite. Carmelo right now is doing exactly the total opposite of what he's doing what he should have did back when he signed with the Knicks. He should have went to a team that was at least a contender when he was talking about he wanted to win. But he wanted money back then. He went to a team that he thinks can get him the best chance to win a championship. He's in his 17th season, and he's seen guys like the guy who he was compared to coming out in that draft, LeBron James, win 3 titles, go to 8 straight finals. He seen that. He wants to win. Same as Chris Paul. He wants to win. Then he has to find a way to be productive on 10 shots. That's all I'm going to say. If you want to win, you have to make sacrifices that lead you to win. So he has to make one of the 2 decisions. He has to be a grown-up and make a decision and sacrifices like we all have to make. He either gets 30 shots and 30 wins, or he gets 10 shots and potentially 50 wins and maybe a Western Conference Finals. No, I agree. He has to buy in. If that team want him to come off the bench, he has to buy. He talked about it in the post-game conference. Like, it's the mindset. You know, he got to get his mind right of coming off the bench. Listen, I agree with that. You know, but to my point, I'm just saying he is better than those guys that they got in the starting lineup. That's all I'm saying.
All right, and we'll go ahead and stop that right there, guys. You guys are getting a little heated, and we're all metaphored out, I do believe. So we'll go ahead and move on to the final segment.
Oh, I got more. Wait till we get there. Wait till we get to this next topic. The whole thing is going to be in metaphors.
Okay, so speaking of the final topic of today's show, we have the Denver Broncos. They are 2-4 going into a Arizona team that is 1-5. Both pretty bad teams. So they're actually kind of calling this a whoever wins tonight's game gets to keep their head coaching job type of night. So Matthew, we'll start with you. Who do you got on this game and why?
Man, I don't even know. I'm not going to watch this game. This game sounds awful, to be honest with you.
It does.
I mean, you got the worst offense in the league with the second worst offense. No, they are, about number-wise, they are the worst offense in the league. I imagine Denver's in the top 5 worst offenses, or bottom 5, I guess we'll say that.
Actually, they're the Denver's ranked 12th overall in offense at 222.
Are they?
Yeah,
they must be off in
games.
that run game because it sure ain't from Case Keenum.
Well,
yeah, Lindsey is doing pretty good, but Case Keenum is.
It's got to be from. Yeah. It's got to be from Lindsey and Foreman.
Well, they're 10th in rushing and 16th in passing.
If they're going to win, if Arizona's going to win, it's going to have. They're going to have to let Rosen just try to find Fitzgerald and those weapons as much as that weapon and some other guys as much as possible. David Johnson just doesn't seem to be what he once was. I've never seen anyone hurt a hand and still come back as stagnant as he has. I don't know what happened in the offseason with that. But then again, I don't know how he's going to hold up against that pass rush of Denver. I don't trust any quarterback. I think Denver is the better team, but something tells me that Rosen's going to give them the spark that they need. That spark usually leads to a win or two. I'm feeling wild today, so I'm going to pick Arizona wins it. 30-27. I don't know.
Shoot out.
I'm going to be honest with you, guys. I flipped the coin for this one. I really did not know who to pick.
Well, let me stop you right here. Hang on, Billy, 1 second.
Go ahead.
While you guys were debating on Carmelo, I did some stats real quick. Every time you and Matthew pick the same team to win, you guys have a 72% probability of getting that pick wrong. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah, Billy, quit bogging me down, bro.
Yeah, hey, you're right, man. Because I'm telling you, I've been cursed this year with game picks, man.
Mike, so I'm going to task you with something then. For Sunday's show, I want to know mine and Billy's records when we pick Solo Dolo. When we don't agree.
I will get that calculated for you right now.
Yeah, that's a pretty good stat, Mike. I see you working back there, man. That's what I'm talking about.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
Hey, I'm telling you, Billy, quit picking what I pick.
Well, get ready for probably that 72% to jump up a tad bit because the coin flip went the Cardinals' way. So I had an argument written down for both teams because both teams are bad. I guess the only thing I could go with is Josh Rosen is young. He can learn, I guess. Yeah, he can learn. Case Keenum is what? I think he's thrown more interceptions on the year than he's done touchdowns, 7 and 8. I like that defense, but as I said, when John Gruden got rid of Khalil Mack and everybody was killing John Gruden, I said it does not matter how good your defense is if you do not have a quarterback that is worth anything. You cannot score points. Look at how many playoff games or how many times did they go to the playoffs with Khalil Mack? How many wins did that equal? It does not matter. I think this is the same situation here. I love Von Miller. He can get it. He's probably the best pass rusher in all of football. But when you got a quarterback back there that makes more mistakes than he does good things, that is never a recipe for success. I got the Cardinals at home, short week. Denver got to travel to Arizona. Maybe they win. I got Arizona in a nail biter.
And his history is on that side, like with that pick, guys. The home team on a Thursday night game is a 80% win probability in the last 3 seasons. So those are
there. You go, Matthew. So our number should probably go down right now. Then
those are actually.
I don't know. I just I just hit up my bookie and put 20 on the Broncos.
Smart choice.
So let me ask you guys this question: have you ever heard of a quarterback by the name of Chad Kelly?
I have.
Yeah.
Ole Miss quarterback.
Machine Gun Kelly.
Okay, so allegedly Keenum is on a short leash tonight. If they go on back-to-back drives with a punt or a turnover, Chad Kelly is getting the call for Broncos. That's a little inside source that I just read, like a little insider Mile High
Well, that
Stadium
makes
thing.
sense, you know.
So
That makes sense. I said it in the whole season, Mike. That's the reason why I thought the Minnesota Vikings were going to be better off this year, because they do not have Case Keenum. He is a natural gunslinger who thinks he can make every throw, and I get it. He played at the University of Houston where he set all the passing records. I get it. But he is not good with the football, you know, and that's why I picked Minnesota to be better this year with Kirk Cousins. And now look at what Denver is dealing with. Little side note here, Colin Kaepernick had a chance to be with the Denver Broncos. He turned that down. Oh, well, tough loss.
he turned it down twice, actually.
You know,
Yes, exactly.
but you're talking about Case Keenum being the old gunslinger. Aside from Chad Kelly actually bringing a machine gun into a bar, there's a reason they called him Machine Gun Kelly, too. He likes to throw the old rock around.
For sure.
All right, guys. Well, as always, great show. Thank you guys for joining us. If you are watching us on the YouTube channel, be sure to hit that bell icon so you get notifications every time we go live. We are live Tuesdays and Thursdays at 1 p.m. Eastern Time and Sunday mornings at 9:45 a.m. As always, give us a like, share this with a friend or two. If you're listening to us on a podcast like iTunes, Google Podcast, Apple Music, iTunes, etc., be sure to follow that podcast as well, as it is uploaded every afternoon as soon as the show is done. So, Billy, speaking of podcasts, where can people find your podcast at?
Anywhere, all the major podcast streams, Apple Music, Spotify. I do a live show on Spreaker. By the way, to that point, I won't be doing the show tomorrow for all those guys. I'm going to be on the road going to Florida, but I will start back with the show on Monday as regular schedule planned. Also, you can listen on iHeartRadio. The show now is available there.
All righty, guys, and as always, thank you for joining us. Matthew, go ahead. I thought you left.
Hey, if I could throw a shameless plug in here, beginning in November, I will be doing a podcast myself called Crossing the Line, which I would love to have Mike and Billy, regular guests, whenever they're ready. It's going to be real laid back, talking sports. Probably not talk much sports because we'll probably get distracted talking about 900 different things. But, this is my first official release of it, and I hope to have you both on there when you guys are available.
Anytime,
buddy. And always, guys, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you Sunday at 9:45. See you guys next time.
All right.
Bye.